Walton can tip it. Bryant with the save.
Oh, you got to get a shot here.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're back. Welcome to the Off the Backboard NBA show, episode 45. I know it's been a couple weeks. I know I've had some stuff going on personally, moving and everything else in between. But we're back. We're happy to bring you some NBA talk. And I know it's been a minute, but we're happy to be back though. As always, I have my wonderful co-host with me, Mr. Deontay Adams. Deontay, what's going on with you, man? What's up?
Hey everybody, how's it going? I know it's been a while since we've done a show like this, but it just feels good to be back. I will say that a lot has happened since the last time since we done this show, but I just really can't wait for all the fun recaps that we're going to talk about tonight and the games that are going on tonight too. So, like I said, it's just your average. I mean, it's just pretty much your average Tuesday night, just us guys just talking about basketball, and so I'm excited.
It's true. That's very true. Speaking of which, a lot of has going on. We'll go ahead and just kind of get right into it. We've had an in-season tournament crowned since then. We've had a lot of stuff going on in the NBA in terms of like just records falling, in terms of like the Detroit Pistons, who have lost 20 straight. Apparently, they didn't win a game the entire month of November, which if I'm looking at anybody in that Pistons organization, I'm sitting here wondering, it's like, all right, so what's about to happen? But we'll go ahead and start off with the in-season tournament. The Lakers were recently crowned champions of the in-season tournament. I know a lot of people were a little bit apprehensive in the beginning of the season as to like what this was going to look like, how it was going to play out. And, I feel like a lot of people were drawn to it. A lot of people had a good time watching it. It was a hard-fought game between the Lakers and the Pacers with a lot of back and forth, but eventually the Lakers did pull away, becoming the inaugural in-season champions. So, Deontay, I just want to kind of get your thoughts on that championship game as a whole, from start to finish. And then how did you feel necessarily about the in-season tournament? Like, was there any, anything that you would change about it? Thoughts, input? How would you want to see it going forward in the future? But right now we'll start. What did you think about the championship game so far?
Like I said, I'm still kind of like grasping onto the idea of having this whole in-season tournament, with the courts being painted and stuff, and, just these knockout rounds, especially when you advance in your group and things of that nature, right? After watching that in-season tournament championship, I mean, I can honestly say that it was as fiercely competitive as people said that it would be, right? I mean, first and foremost, I want to talk about the Lakers real quick in that game. I mean, Anthony Davis just really came alive in that game. I mean, 41 points in a game like that. I mean, Jesus, there's really not much anything for me to say. I mean, he was pretty much dominant in that game, right? He was pretty much dominant. So there's nothing really, hey, kudos to the Lakers for, winning a, championship and hanging up your banner, in season tournament champions or whatever you want to call yourselves. I mean, I really don't have any like opinions on it, despite the fact that I'm still trying to get adjusted to this whole in-season tournament thing. So, but like I said, I mean, games like these where players just like really show out, I think it just brings about that competitive spirit that is the NBA. So I really don't have any complaints about it, except some of the courts are terrible when it comes to these in-season tournament games. My gosh, like they just really need to figure out a way how to just, I don't know, just the concepts of the courts, just like use a little less bright paint, next time, right? Because it's like a little bit much on the eyes. But other than that, I mean, like I said, as the season progresses, who knows? Maybe I'll have a change of heart. Maybe I'll say, oh, hey, maybe this in season tournament is not such a bad idea. But like I said, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But how do you feel about your Lakers winning that in season tournament championship? And what are your thoughts on it? And what do you think needs to be improved moving forward?
I mean, me being a Lakers fan, I'm happy that they were, able to win the championship. I mean, it's the inaugural one, so I mean, whoever won it was going to get some type of like backlash. A lot of people looking at it from a standpoint of like, oh, the Lakers won it, so it's like, oh, it's another fake championship like the one they won in 2020. But I mean, the way I see it, I mean, it came down to them and Indiana, and Indiana had a great run. They could have just as easily won that championship, and I feel like what a lot of people don't necessarily understand from that standpoint is when you have something like this throughout the regular season, it's going to be able to like put a little bit more exposure out there for some of these players that you may not necessarily have thought of before. I'm looking at it from a standpoint of me being the basketball person I am, and you as well. We already kind of knew about the name Tyrese Halliburton before this tournament, but for anybody who may have been like a casual fan, they don't necessarily know about it, and the Pacers are getting a lot more screen time, and they're looking at him as like, oh my gosh, this is, you look at this team with Buddy and Miles Turner, Benedict Mathurin, a lot of these other guys they have. It's a damn good squad. I mean, they're a good mix of young guys and old, and they got a great nucleus going forward for them. And the way I see it is, it's going to be something special going forward with that team. I think that if you are looking at the Indiana Pacers, you need to watch them as a contender in the Eastern Conference. I don't know how much of a run that they're going to make, but they are a force to be reckoned with. And if somebody meets up with them in the playoffs, you better not take them lightly. But going back to that said, I'm happy the Lakers won. I mean, if the Pacers would have won it, great. I'd have been happy for them. But I feel like this is, depending on who you ask, a lot of people are going to be looking at it as, this is another notch on LeBron's belt. It's kind of like you talked about AD in the championship game. He went damn near Super Saiyan mode. It was great to see him, putting in that work that he's been talking about in the offseason and looking like the guy that we as Lakers fans expected him to be. So for him to be able to show that kind of moxie and that fight and that defensive presence, it was nice to see, and I'm hoping that that's able to continue throughout the rest of the season. If it doesn't, then we got some stuff to talk about. But I'm hoping that continues. As far as the tournament as a whole, I liked it. I was a little bit iffy at first, like everybody else. I'm like, it's an in-season tournament. I don't know how I feel about them doing this, but I think there can be some tweaks and changes made. But I think as though if you're gonna do something like this, because I know people in the league are talking about how it needs to have some changes, and some people are talking about how the winner of the tournament should be guaranteed a playoff spot. I don't like that, because if you're doing it this early in the season and you're just sitting here saying, "Oh, you're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs," you don't have to do anything the rest of the season. You can just pretty much tank. And then I don't know how that's necessarily going to work out in terms of draft odds. You can make the playoffs and then have like a high lottery pick. I don't know what the things will look, what it will look like in that sense, but I don't like that in that sense. I would hope that it's going to be something more feasible that they can do, and we'll see how it plays out. But overall, I liked it. I didn't like it too much as a fan to start, but it kind of grew on me just kind of seeing, it's pretty much March Madness in December. So a lot of people are just sitting here like, hey, I mean, we're kind of getting a taste of it, for anybody who didn't necessarily get to play college ball. It's like single elimination, one game you out. So there's things that give me, man. I do agree with your stance on the courts. Some of the courts were just kind of iffy. Some people have problems with them being too slippery and stuff like that. But hopefully, we will see what it's going to look like going forward, though, for the most part. And I would love to see what they would do in terms of like just compensation for the players or like an extra draft pick or something. But trying to guarantee a playoff spot, I feel like that kind of demeans what you guys are doing already with the end season. Well, the play-in tournament at the end of the season. It's like, then what's the point of doing that? So, but I want to get your opinion on that real quick. Do you think that the winner of the in-season tournament should be guaranteed a playoff spot, or like what do you think should be done in that sense? Like,
I mean, I know the premise of the in-season tournament is that if you win the entire tournament, then you basically receive a bonus, right? You receive a bonus, get an extra 500,000, and then the coaches get an extra 250,000. Looking at it, I mean, I understand that some of these players that are playing, their contracts aren't even worth that much. So I'm glad that some of these players get the extra money to help them out, especially in their lives and in their families as well. I really think that the in-season tournament should implement that if you necessarily win that tournament, then you're guaranteed a playoff spot, right? So it's kind of like reiterating the concepts of what the All-Star games used to be back in the day, because you've been around longer than I have, right? And if you recall those All-Star games, right, they didn't really necessarily have all the flash, all the unnecessary stuff that you see in today's NBA. So if you're, let's say for example, if you're a part of the East team and if you're part of the West team, the team that wins is pretty much guaranteed like a playoff spot, or just somewhere closer to like a playoff seeding or whatever the case may be, right? So that's what I'm kind of hoping that this in-season tournament will implement in the near future. Oh, bless you. And I mean, yeah, who knows? I mean, I really think that they should kind of go back to the concepts of those NBA All-Star games from back in the day, talking like 80s and 90s and stuff like that. But how about you? What do you think?
It's kind of like what I was going back to earlier. Like, if you get a chance to win a spot, to win the tournament, it's like guaranteed a spot to playoffs. But I'm like, you're kind of dictating how much effort you're going to put into the rest of the season, and it's like you can just pretty much sleepwalk through the rest of the year, and it'd be good, and you're set. But my thing of it is, if you're going to go that route, don't have the tournament as early as it is right now. Like, if you're going to do that, have it closer to like the All-Star break, or maybe even after the All-Star break, when teams are getting to be in that push. And then you also have the play-in tournament then as well. That way it's a little bit easier for you to kind of get in that sense. Because if you're doing it so early on in the regular season, then it's like teams are going to coast, and then they're not going to necessarily put in as much effort and things like that, is my opinion. But I would sit here and think that if you're going to do it, have it closer towards either the middle or the end of the season. That way it's a little bit more, teams have already kind of gotten adjusted to it and things like that. And you already have a better idea of what you're going to do in terms of how many games you got left and stuff like that. But again, it's my opinion. People are going to sit here and say different opinions and other things of that nature. I know we got some comments on here. I'm going to go and look at these real quick. Said, that's my sports. Said they could do home playoff advantage for the winner. Like, I mean, I guess that kind of goes with, I don't want to say guaranteeing a spot, but then you are essentially, you get, home court advantage that series. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, all right, you get. It doesn't necessarily have to be the entire playoffs, but at least the first series is like, all right, bet if you are a lower seed and you win the tournament and you guarantee at least home court, I'm like, all right, that's not as bad. I could deal with that. And JR talking about said for fun result for the winner, you get to add or take away an NBA rule for next season. I feel like that's some 2K stuff. If that's the route we want. That's some 2K stuff. I would say
that's interesting though. Like what? I wonder what rules are eligible if you do win. Like what NBA rules are eligible for elimination next season? So that would be
me. If I were to go that route, I would say something along the likes of goaltending, because I know they have the like the FIBA rules where as soon as the ball touches the rim, it's pretty much live ball at that point. So I would love to see maybe something like that. It's not necessarily too crazy, but it's something that's already been implemented, so people could already get used to it though. But that's one rule. I don't know if anything too major, unless you're like adjusting fouls or whatever. But I don't know. You don't want to tamper too much with the rules, and then you're gonna have really people just really getting into it in that sense. But that's I mean, it's kind of also what Jared was talking about earlier. It's like one of the best things about the tournament is got people talking, and that's a very good point. Like, whether it be good or bad, people are sitting here talking about the in-season tournament at this point, whether they have good opinions about it, bad opinions about it. you got people talking about it for better or for worse. And I think that's what Adam Silver, once the tournament was over, I'm looking at Adam Silver like this is actually pretty damn good. Um, he had a good thought process. He implemented it. He's gotten people talking about it. So it's been good, and I will applaud him for that. I'm curious as to what it's going to look like going forward, and how he will have this thing going forward in the future. So, going forward. Speaking of which, let's talk about JR's power rankings that he just posted out. So we're gonna go ahead and get those up real quick. He's already got them up, so I'm gonna share the screen so you guys can kind of look at it. Now, obviously, ESPN has their rankings and Bleacher Report, all those other websites, things like that. But I know here at the Sports Affiliation, we have guys that are putting in the work on that. So we're gonna go to JR's power rankings. We're gonna discuss them here for a bit. I know he kind of posted them in our group, so we can kind of see what they look like. But I want to see what everybody else's opinions are going to be on it. So we will see what it's going to look like here. So I will pull this up right quick so everybody else can kind of have a look at it. And voila. So if you guys are looking at it at this current moment right now, we got them up on the screen. So here we go. Like I said, he put some thought into it. And speaking of people talking, if you're gonna get people talking, you put some rankings and stuff out, it's gonna be interesting to kind of see how this plays out. So we'll look at the top 12 right here just to kind of see what it looks like. So obviously, there's gonna be some interesting names that you see up here at the top, and there's some familiar names as always. So he has the Timberwolves as the number one ranked team in the NBA per his power rankings, which depending on who you ask, maybe for good or bad, Minnesota's going to be that team. It's got your Boston Celtics at 2, Orlando at 3, Dallas 4, Philly 5, and then you round up the top 12. You got the Lakers, Thunder, Nuggets, Pacers, Bucks, Heat, and the Kings. So off the top, I'm looking at it as if you'd have told me at the beginning of the season that Minnesota would be one of the hotter teams or one of the best teams in the league, I'd look at you like you may have a point, but at the same time, I'm still looking at what they possibly could do with Rudy and Cat and Ant. So I mean, you just kind of have to sit here and think like over the course of the last few years, how well they could kind of mesh and how everything would go there. But JR feels really strongly about him, so I can't really knock him for that. He's got the Celtics at 2, and then the Orlando Magic at 3, which this is an extremely young team led by Paolo. I think it's Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony. They got a lot of young guys on that team, so they are looking to kind of like make their way up in ascension. And then the top 5, you got Dallas and Philly. So just looking at these top 12 rankings or so, what do you think so far? Yeah, they're just kind of looking at. Is there anything that kind of stands out to you, or like what stands out to you most right now?
I'm surprised that OKC's not in the top 5, if we're being honest. I mean, if you take a look at OKC and what they're doing right now, especially with Shea Gillis Alexander, or SGA for short, right? I mean, they're pretty much as like winning percentage wise, they're pretty much number 5 in the league when it comes to the record. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games, and they have won basically 2 in a row. So, and especially with that young core, I'm pretty surprised that they're not like top 5 consideration. But it is what it is. But like I said, they're still a top 10 team, so that there's no denying that. But I really feel like they should be like more of a top 5 team more than anything, right? And then another thing, right? The Timberwolves, like even though they just lost a game, like who really cares, because they're really on a tear. I really did not expect the Timberwolves to become the best team in the league up until this point, right? I thought it was just gonna be pure Celtics ball, but then we just kind of collapsed here and there, whatever the case may be. But the Timberwolves are on a tear. I mean, there's pretty much no denying that. They're pretty much the best team in the league at this point. So I'm not really surprised at the Timberwolves being up there. Orlando Magic, I'm not really surprised either, because like I said, they're pretty much one of the younger teams in the NBA, right? Mavericks, I'm not really surprised, and then Philly, yeah, I'm not really surprised either. And then the Pacers, Bucks, Heat, and then the Nuggets. I mean, like I said, I'm not really surprised. The Nuggets have been kind of iffy lately. The Pacers have been kind of pretty much been catching fire, like due to the fact of the Tyrese Halliburton show or whatever you want to call it. The Milwaukee Bucks with Dame and Giannis, that duo still being one of the best duos in the East. Miami Heat, it's been let's see. I mean, it's kind of Miami's been kind of not sure they've been like iffy, but well, they pretty much their last 5 games the last 10 games they're 5-5, so they're kind of iffy. So I understand where they're at. And then the Sacramento Kings, right? Sacramento Kings, they still have Fox, they still have Sabonis. That's pretty much a complementary duo, and all right, let me address something. Right?
All right.
Throughout all my timeline, I'm seeing, whether or not the Kings should have traded away Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, it's pretty much a win-win scenario for both of these teams. I mean, these teams are pretty much, as we're looking at it right now, in the top 12 power ranking. So you can honestly say that Tyrese has pretty much grown into his own person when he is in Indy, and then Fox and Sabonis just complement each other. So I don't think, like, yes, it does kind of stink that Tyrese, like the Tyrese Halliburton that's on the Pacers now, is not on this Sacramento Kings, because that would really help them get to where they're at and just like make a deep playoff run. But honestly, I just see it as a win-win for both teams. So I really can't complain. So that's just kind of my spiel for it. But like I said, I'm not really surprised at these power rankings, because I think that these teams are where they need to be in terms of competitiveness, and just the overall sense of where the NBA is at right now, because I believe we're just more than a quarter into the regular season of the NBA. So I'm not really surprised.
I'm gonna say this, just looking at it from a standpoint of just pure basketball. Like, obviously, Minnesota's the best team in the league record wise, so it makes sense as why they might be number one. Boston's right behind them. Orlando, I'm gonna be real. I thought the Orlando Magic would take at least a couple more years to kind of get to a point to where they could be in contention. I don't want to put them in the same category as the Utah Jazz last year, where they got off to this extremely hot start. It was like a torch start, and then they just kind of fell off. I feel as though they can kind of keep this going for the better part of the rest of the season and make a playoff run. I'm not saying that they're going to be, competitors to win the championship this year, but they could possibly get in as like a 5 or 6 seed and maybe give that top two, maybe one of those top two seeds a scare, or top 1 to 4 seeds. But like I said, you look at Palo and you look at the rest of his team, it's something that they have been building together for, the better part of like the last couple of years. So it's nice to see them and where they're at right now. And I'm kind of curious to see where this team will be in the next couple months as the season continues to progress. I mean, you're looking at them right now, the 16-7, 11-2 at home, 500 on the road, but good core nucleus, great coaching staff, it seems like. So, I mean, you can't really knock them for that. Dallas and Philly, I was iffy on Dallas just because I wasn't necessarily sure what the Luka and Kyrie show was going to look like. There's two of the best ball handlers in the game, primary ball handlers, so they can just kind of do what they need to do. That backcourt is deadly from an offensive standpoint, but defensively it's kind of iffy. But they've been doing pretty well. And, obviously the Mavericks are playing, the Lakers tonight, but they don't have Kyrie. And they're currently winning right now. So that tells you a lot about how Luka and the rest of his squad is being put together. OKC, you can make an argument for them being in the top 5, just with Shea and Chet and Lou Dort and Giddy and everything else with the team in it and where they are right now. It's something that, I've been on the bandwagon of saying that they will be a team to be reckoned with this year. They could make a run to the Western Conference Finals if they really wanted to. And it's this is like, I don't want to say that Harden, Westbrook, Durant duo trio 2.0, but you look at a guy like Shea and Chet, and I say Josh Giddey, you look at those 3 guys, and honestly, I say look at the whole team. Like I said, you look at Lou Dort and then everybody else in that squad. This is a team that could, like I said, you put them in the playoffs against, one of these top contenders, and they might actually give somebody a scare and upset somebody. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they're going to be easy either. Lakers, they've been doing what they need to do. Nuggets have been kind of faltering, but they can still pick some stuff up. Milwaukee, Miami. See, the thing with Miami is like they were iffy to start the season because I know they were coming off that high, like making it to the finals as an 8 seed, and they had a chance, possibly go up more. But I just feel like the middle of the pack right now, they're sitting at 13-10, and there's still a lot of room for them to grow. I know they lost some key pieces last year in the offseason, so we will see how that's going to continue to go forward for them. And Jaime Jaquez, I think, is a rookie. So if you haven't been looking at him play, you might want to check him out. But I like where this is sitting at. And I know we looking at the comments. So that's my sports talking about. What about Red Nation Rockets? I think we'll get to them here in a little bit. But the top 12 isn't bad. I like where these teams are. It's a pretty good squad. And then looking at these next few teams, we'll go from. I don't think we need to necessarily need to go to who the last team is, but we'll just kind of go from there. So from then on, Rockets are sitting. He was talking about where my Rockets at. The Rockets are sitting at 15. Brooklyn's at 16. The Cavs, the Warriors, Clippers, Knicks, Hawks, Raptors. Some of these other teams you kind of expected them to be lower where they're at. There's not really too many surprises for me, except for I would say the Warriors and the Clippers, because you look at this roster and what some of these top end guys are and like the caliber of player they are. Obviously, with the Warriors, you look at Steph Clay, Draymond. Obviously, Steph has been pretty much essentially backpacking that team the entire season, and they aren't necessarily where they want to be. They're currently sitting at, I think their record is below 500. They're 10-12. They're currently sitting out of the play-in spot as well, so they're 2 games back in New Orleans for that 10 spot. And you look at the other teams below them, Utah, Memphis, Portland, San Antonio. It's not really too much of a surprise there, especially with Memphis. John Moran's getting ready to make his return here, I think, in the next week or so. It's 25-game suspension, so it's going to be up soon. And then you look at the Clippers; they're only sitting at 12-10. They're a game and a half back in like the top 6 spots. But I think the Clippers are a lot more. I'm not even saying this is a bias, but looking at it from a basketball standpoint, if I was a Clippers fan, I'd be extremely disappointed because you look at what the team is supposed to be and where they're at, and it's not what I would think to be. Obviously, people look at this team as championship contender. You got guys like Kawhi, PG, Russ, James Harden, like that quartet of guys. You're expecting them to like have championship caliber moments and plays and things like that. But at the same time, I've said this before. Like 4 years together, you look at Kawhi and PG, they've made 1 conference finals appearance and nothing more to show for it. And then you look at how they got Russ and James Harden, and people are expecting them to still make a run. I still have no belief in them at all. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, they're gonna be this great team. For one, I'm a Lakers fan, so I'm never gonna say that the Clippers are a great team. Let's just go ahead and get that out the way. If people say otherwise, they're crazy. But I just don't see it. And just looking at the rest of the team for them, again, you expect the team to be great year in and year out, but they're not doing what they need to do. Steve Ballmer has it ready to get ready for their new arena that's coming up here in like the next few years, so they can finally get out of Staples. They can look at all their wonderful banners that are hung up and sit here and wonder when they're ever going to get a championship. But other than that, there's not really too much in the bottom half that I look at. I mean, obviously the Suns are another team, but we're still waiting on this trio of Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker to play together. They were set to play tonight.
They ever play together. It's just it's infuriating.
KD's not playing tonight, so it's like we're still waiting on this trio to play together, and everybody's sitting here wondering, it's like, when is that shoe going to drop? It's like, okay, we're finally going to get to see them play. What are they going to look like together? Who's going to be the primary ball handler? This, that. Who, in a game time, clutch situation, who's going to get the ball last? So many different situations that we have yet to see because of injuries. Like, again, Bradley Beal's returning tonight, but KD's out. It's like every time we sit here and say, oh, they're going to be talking about how the big 3 is going to get ready. No, they're not. Like, we talked about this in our group chat earlier. Like, there's no way you're going to sit here and convince me that they're going to be ready to go. Like, if it's not one guy, it's the other. It's like musical chairs. It's like everybody keeps wondering who are they going to be together. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And then You look at the pace. No, not the Pacers. The Pistons again. They're currently sitting at the worst record in the league. They've lost 21 straight games. They're obviously the the bottom feeder team that everybody's looking at. But also, you look at teams like the Spurs and the Wizards, who also haven't been on the best of terms in terms of like putting up great records. But since the Pistons have lost 21 or 20 straight games, and they didn't win a single game last month, it's like, hey, low hanging fruit. We're going to talk about the Pistons. So, but that's just kind of my take on just looking at the rest of the Rockets rankings. And looking at out east, I'm sitting here wondering what else is going to happen. But what are your thoughts on the bottom half? Obviously, these are the bottom feeder teams. There's not going to be too much to say, but
I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You guys said, what's your thoughts on it? Just looking at that last little bit.
I guess one thing that I can say is why exactly are the Clippers above the Knicks in the power rankings? I mean, if it were like if I had to choose between the trio of New York versus the trio of what is it, Clippers, I would take New York over the Clippers any day of the week. I mean, I just feel like I don't know what to expect from the Clippers, right? Like for one thing, injuries are a main concern, and then you have how do these different dynamics of players, how are they gonna fit with each other, right? Like if Westbrook were in his prime, James Harden were in his prime, Kawhi were in his prime, and then Paul George were in his prime, they'd easily be a top team in the West right now, but unfortunately they're not right now, right? As far as the Knicks go, I mean the Knicks are they're a fiercely competitive team, right? I say this because even though the Celtics have beaten them three times so far into the season already, but I mean the Knicks are just this scrappy team. Like they literally never go away until you decide to get the ball rolling and you really make a statement on them. But the Knicks will find a way to make you pay, especially when it comes in the paint. You have Julius Randle, you have Jalen Brunson, you have R.J. Barrett, and not to mention, they have Emmanuel Quickly and Dante, who they just acquired from Golden State, who was giving us problems the last time we faced them. Right? I just feel like the Knicks are. I just feel like the Knicks are just a bit more complete than the Knicks in terms of just like chemistry and all of the major injuries, that stuff that just happened on the Clippers. I mean, I really do feel like the Knicks can be up there. I feel like they can just like move either one spot or two spots in the power rankings, but that's just it for me. And then going into Phoenix one last time, yeah, like you said, we're still waiting on that big three to just like play together, and it really hasn't happened. And that's one of the main concerns that we talked about on the show, even in the off season, right? How are these players gonna play with each other if they really haven't played that each other on the court? You know what I mean? Like injuries, and then yeah, it's kind of reminded me of the Brooklyn Nets a few years ago, right? They had this big three of Durant, Irving, and Harden, right? But they barely played like a whole full season together.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. It is what it is. So that's what these Phoenix Suns are reminding me of. They're still rolling. Don't get me wrong, but they could be even more if all three of them are just playing at the same time. So that's it. Nothing else really much that I can say about the bottom half of the team. The Pistons have have one of the worst lucks in the league. It is what it is. I just don't have anything else to say in these power rankings. So that's just kind of my spiel of it. And then the Knicks and Clippers do have the same expectations, but the Knicks number 4 is Josh Hart and the Clips number 4 is Russell Westbrook. So who would you take as a number 4? Would you take Josh Hart or would you take Westbrook at that point?
Is it bad? I want to sit here and I feel like it depends on what Russ I'm getting. But the thing of it is, I've seen Russ play on the Clippers before. I've seen him play on the Lakers. So it's like I know what he is capable of. But at the same time, I'm also sitting there like, is it a foregone conclusion that we are going to get the same Russ year in year out or game to game? That's not how it works out. One time Russ may be looking like former All-Star / MVP. Another game he may be looking like Russ that wants to take a shot with 16 seconds left on the shot clock and it's a mid range, knowing damn well he doesn't need to take that shot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I would say sitting here today, I would probably still take Russ just because I know energy wise he's going to give me something 10 times out of 10. That's not to say that Josh Hart isn't, but I feel like Josh Hart is going to be more of a role player. Russ can give you that extra edge when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like people might look at me and saying this is like a diss towards Josh Hart, and I'm not necessarily dissing him because Josh Hart is a great player in the league. He's made it to the NBA, so that says a lot. But that's just kind of where I'm at with that. And again, you can't necessarily sit here and discredit Russell Westbrook. He's a former MVP. He is a triple double king, so that's kind of how that plays out. But at the end of the day, Russ is still going to be Russ. I will sit here and take that 10 times out of 10. And I will sit here and, I will root for Russ all day, every day. I hate how his tenure ended with the Lakers. Obviously, fans were a little bit, vicious towards him and some of just the things they said and whatnot. But obviously, there's not really too much that we can do about it now because he's in, another LA uniform. But if you're looking at me right now, I'm sitting here going to say Russ over Josh Hart. And that's just with his pedigree and everything he's done.
Understandable.
So, I think we had like maybe a couple more things to talk about. Just looking at some of these other players, kind of going back, not necessarily to the in-season tournament, but just kind of about how players are kind of being put on notice. Obviously, this tournament was, in some people's eyes, a coming out party for Tyrese Halliburton and just the way he played. Over the entirety of the tournament. And, I got to give him his props. He did well. He balled out. He did what he needed to do. And he put himself on the map as well as the Pacers. And I feel like a lot of people need to sit here and recognize that the Pacers are a for real team. And if you don't think that, then you do not watch NBA basketball, in my opinion, because you're going to sit here and tell me that the Pacers aren't going to be much of a contender. I'm like, you might want to sit here and just think twice about that. Obviously, Reese made the All-Star game last year, I believe. So I would imagine he's going to be in contention to possibly be to be an All-Star this year, possibly an All-Star starter. So, and I think that's something I wanted to get into here real quick afterwards. But what are some of the players that you've been looking at on the rise and are excited to see what they have to put forth, throughout the rest of the season? I know we're a quarter of the way through the season essentially, but what are some players that you've been looking at that you think are going to be really shining as the season goes on?
I know this one is kind of obvious because he's a young kid who's really like ascending up there, especially with a young core, right? The person in my mention that I'm talking about is obviously SGA, right? I mean, well, I can be biased because I have him on fantasy basketball and I'm undefeated. I'm undefeated with him, by the way. And I also have Tyrese Halliburton on my squad too.
There you go.
And I mean, just looking at the stats, I mean, stat wise, I mean, you could easily say that SGA can be a top 3, top 5 player in the league if he's not already, right? I mean, the kid is he's just wicked talented, man. I mean, you could say that he's basically the heart and soul of that OKC core. Like I said, I'm not discrediting the other players that make up that core, but when you think of SGA, you're thinking, oh my God, like this kid is just highly efficient. He can drain a 3 from basically anywhere on the court. I mean, the stats in the film, they speak for itself, right?
Right.
And then going into the Tyrese Halliburton show that's going on in the Indy right now, right? I mean, the fact that he's just getting recognized, especially on national television, where he's just like it really does something to you, right? I mean, so far this kid, I believe he's 23, 24. He's right now averaging pretty much a double double of the season. So like I said, these two guys, I mean, they're just highly incredible, right? And I believe Tyrese Halliburton had his first career triple double a few nights ago. So, kudos to him. Kudos to him because, he basically is the engine that drives the Pacers offensive unit right now. So, like I said, I mean, these two guys, I'm glad that these two guys, they're really getting a chance to, shine when the spotlight is on them. So that's kind of my two players.
Okay. One of the guys I'm gonna talk about, I don't know if people would expect me to talk about him just because I'm a Lakers fan, but at the same time I'm still gonna see him talk about a guy that's sitting out west. Alperen Sengun with Houston. Obviously, you look at this team, the way they've been playing throughout the first quarter of the season. Houston's been sitting pretty. They're a consistent team in terms of like being in the play-in area range right now. I would love to see how they would continue to look going forward. Alperen's been doing pretty well for himself. He's got like 21 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, and shooting 54% from the field and 64% from the free throw line, 30% from the 3-point line. Good splits. He's a good piece for them. With I can't remember if it's a SAR or I'm gonna just look it up because I'm not gonna sit here and look crazy as far as like which. Amin Thompson. So got Amin Thompson, Fred VanVleet, Jabari Smith. They got Dylan Brooks, a lot of these other guys that are there as well. It's nice for me to sit here and look at them and think, back in the days when they had James Harden and stuff like that, they were going out there balling. But looking at them now, what they've done in terms of like trying to rebuild, everybody was sitting here thinking, Fred VanVleet got a boatload of money from them. And I was sitting here thinking, yeah, Father Fred got a lot of money, but at the same time, you look at what they have right now, and they've been sitting pretty. And I can't sit here and help but to think that they could give a team fits during the playoffs as well. But I will hold that for another conversation for another day. And then I'm gonna go out east, and there's another guy that a lot of people are probably gonna say, but I'm gonna talk about him anyways. Paolo. He was a rookie of the year last year, and he's been doing pretty damn good for himself as well. 21 points as far as what he's been scoring. He's got 7 boards, 5 assists, and he's shooting 49% from the field. He's got the Magic sitting pretty in terms of like being the second seed right now currently, and they're in the East. And he just turned 21 a few weeks ago. It's hard for me to look at them and think that they can't keep this up. I mean, they're doing pretty well. They got like I said, their team is just primarily just a lot of these younger guys. When you look at it, it's unbelievable to think they're sitting at 16-7 and doing what they're doing. Obviously, like I said, they got Paolo, they got Cole, they drafted Anthony Black, Wendell Carter Jr., Markelle Fultz, Gary Harris is another guy that they've been talking about. Jonathan Isaac, when he needs to be. I don't know if Joe Ingles has played yet, but he's like one of their only vets that they got on the team. It's been a nice change of pace to kind of see this Orlando Magic team. I feel like the last time we've seen them do anything. Franz Wagner, thank you. I knew I was forgetting somebody. It's been a nice change of pace to see them. I think the last time they were this competent and relevant was, I want to say 2019 when they made the playoffs and they took the first game from Toronto and then they got reverse swept. They lost in 5. So it's been a minute for them since they've actually been in this situation. So I feel like they can sit here and continue to kind of be that team that a lot of people are giving them credit for, and it's like, hey, we're gonna show y'all that this isn't just a fluke. I don't think we're gonna see a situation like them last year with the Utah Jazz, where they had this hot towards start and then all of a sudden they just kind of fall off. So I think they can continue to kind of show what their moxie is and really make a run at the playoffs. So JR's jumping in here talking about some of these other guys. He said that TJ McConnell's been a gem. Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, in the championship game, TJ was giving people the business. He was giving people fits, defensively. Reminded me of Dellavedova back in the playoffs in the finals. I think we're going to say Cleveland. I want to say, I forget if it was 15 or 16. He was giving Curry fits in that one game, and he had to go to the hospital afterwards because he was so dehydrated. I forget which one it was. I think it was 15 or 16. I can't remember which. Portland, he says Portland got some gems. I mean, Anthony's a dog out there, but I will hesitate to say anything about Mr. DeAndre Diamond Ayton, which I don't like that nickname. I don't like that he did that to himself. I'm like, bro, you just setting yourself up for failure. You do realize that? But he decided that he wanted to do that. So DeAndre Ayton, that's all on you, my guy. So one more little like nugget of topics I want to talk about that we can get out of here. Obviously the All-Star break's not going to be till February, but I want to kind of get your thoughts and the pulse on what you might think about it. Is there anybody that you're looking at that might be an all-star this year that hasn't been in the past, or maybe they haven't been an all-star in the past, but they got a chance to get back on it now, or they could be a first-time all-star this year?
Derek White. If you, well,
I was ready with that one.
Okay. Yep. So you already know what I'm going to say. So the fact that Derek White is just this huge contributor to the Boston Celtics right now. I mean, I don't understand why he's not getting more recognition for what he does especially in that Celtics front court, right? We're talking about a guy that can pretty much give you 25 and 5 on pretty much an average night if he wanted to, right? The fact that he's taken on this role as being the fourth scorer on a team that is filled with Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis, right? I mean, the fact that he comes in, right, especially in that trade that Brad Stevens was a part of a few years ago, right? I feel like Derek White has been our greatest acquisition in pretty much 2-3 years. And so especially Derek White is pretty much a good defender, right? That's not being talked about enough, right? So I really do think that Derek White should be an all-star this season. If you don't believe me, just go look at the film. Go look at the film and tell me why you don't think that Derek White should be an all-star this season. Because quite frankly, I can honestly say that he has the potential to be an all-star this season. And yeah, Joshua, you're absolutely right. He doesn't get the beat behind he doesn't, because this is a team, like I said, with superstars. Well, yeah, stars like Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis, like I just mentioned. But if he were doing this in another team, then I guarantee you that he would get the recognition. But because he's playing in Boston, and we all know that Boston is a huge market city, a huge market sports team. He's just kind of like fades away, and that's the part that I don't like. Like, just can we just give some recognition to Derek White? And can we just please put some respect on Derek White's name, please, and how much he contributes to this Celtics team offensively and defensively? I mean, that's it. But yeah, that's kind of my top pick for who I think should be an all-star this season.
I got a few guys, and then there's there's a couple of guys I might be talking about that necessarily might not be there. Who I talked about earlier, Alperen Sengun, I feel like he's got a good shot at being an all-star this year. Looking at his splits and what Houston's done. Paolo, he was a rookie last year, and I feel like he's going to have a chance to do it this year. I would also say I'm gonna go and put this out there right now, Tyrese. And I hate when all-star voting comes out, and this is essentially like a popularity contest. Everybody's going to vote for the favorite players. I'm sitting here and voting for players that are most deserving, but everybody knows it's like the world's greatest pickup game. But I don't really care. It's great. It's a great weekend as a whole. If Tyrese Halliburton is not a damn all-star starter this year, I'm looking at everybody like, what in the hell is going on with y'all? Like, he deserves to be a starter this year. Like, with the way he's been playing so far in the season, with the way Indiana's been playing, the recognition he's gotten. You know, if you want to go popularity and then being put in the public spotlight, he deserves to be a starter. Gerald's talking about it. Let it be known Deontay is starting the Derek White is an all-star campaign.
Yep,
Look,
I will put it in full effect too.
hey, if we gotta look, sponsored by the Sports Affiliation, get Derek White an all-star game.
He will be an all-star by February.
Hey, look, if we gotta stuff the ballots, make sure I will do it. Hey, if you want me to do it, once the all-star voting opens up, I'll put it in if we need to. Obviously, I feel like Tyrese Maxey is going to be a starter this. I don't know about Well, actually, he could be a starter this year, but I feel like Tyrese is going to be an all-star game with his other teammate Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
You got some of the other obvious names. I hesitate to say. I feel like there might not be as much representation for some of these guys this year. I hesitate as to whether or not Donovan Mitchell might make it. Or Jimmy, I honestly am going to sit here and say Trey's not going to. I don't think Trey's going to make it this year, just because of some of the other guys that he's going to be sitting behind. I mean, if you're looking at guards specifically in the East, with you talked about Derek White, you got Drew Holiday, you got Dame, you got Tyrese, you got Maxey and Halliburton. Hell, even Jalen Brunson, who didn't get that's another one. Jalen Brunson got snubbed last year. If he doesn't get in this year, I'm gonna be surprised because y'all are losing y'all's damn mind. Donovan Mitchell, there's only so many guard positions that you have, so I would think that he's probably gonna miss out. JR was talking about someone give Zion some love. I mean, hey, he dropped 30-something points yesterday? What was it? Like, he had a hell of a game. I want to see Zion succeed. I want to see him make it. I would love to see where he gets at. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to put this out there right now. And I know it's going to happen. I understand, again, All-Star break, voting, popularity contest. If the first ballot comes out and you see all the votes and the names and stuff, and Ja Morant's name is on that damn list anywhere, I'm going to lose my mind. This man has not played a single game this whole season. And yet, I guarantee when All-Star voting comes out, people are still gonna be ready to vote him in. I'm like, don't do that, because you're gonna screw somebody else over who I think deserves to be in the All-Star game. And that's nothing against Ja, but you ain't played 25 games, and I feel like that should be like a hindrance as to why you shouldn't be getting it. But that's neither here nor there. I feel like looking at the West, it's always tough to see who's gonna get in because it's always like the West, like from a playoff standpoint, is always stacked, and you look at the teams as a whole. It's going to be an interesting topic of conversation once it does come around. So, other than that, I think that's about all we got for tonight. Unless there's anything that you wanted to add. I know it's been a couple weeks, but it's been a minute for me. But I don't know if there's anything else you want to add before we get out of here. But
if you think the All-Star votings is going to be tough, just wait till the All NBA voting comes out. Just wait.
Oh boy, yeah, because it's essentially positionless, and it's only 15 spots, so somebody's gonna be screwed out of money because a lot of these contracts are like, oh, if you get an All NBA appearance, you're gonna get an extra incentive. So, JR came in clutch already with his last little bit. Which team is most likely to draft LeBron James Jr.? I'm a Bronny.
Let's see. We're talking about this year, right? We're talking about this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's at USC right now. He just played his first game the other day. So I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if he comes out this year. I understand there's a possibility it could happen, but I don't think he comes out this year. I would feel like it might be another year before he does come out. And at that point, you're looking at somebody that's looking at like he's like a 6-foot point guard or something like that. Who's got his dad's genes, who's like he's dumb athletic. And there was a chase down block I think he had the other day. Yep. I'm saying like that's resemblance of his daddy. That's the blind chase right there.
That's a good question because
I don't know why Chicago was the first thing that popped in my head because I don't know what their point guard situation is like going forward. But I'm also like, I don't think that's a good idea just because, somebody's going to look at it like, oh, he's going to try to do what his dad didn't do with Chicago. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm just thinking about teams who's going to need point guards in like the next year or two. I don't really know. Chicago was the first one to pop up.
I think Toronto may need a point guard. I mean, if I were Charlotte right now, right? I mean, I know given LaMelo Ball's injury history, I wouldn't be surprised if Charlotte, makes an interesting run at him or for him. And then you have the teams that are like the Grizzlies, the Trailblazers, the Wizards, Spurs, and then the Pistons, right? So we're gonna see what this draft lottery or the next couple of draft lotteries are gonna be, and who knows? Maybe these teams will stay at the same position that they are next year, or who knows? Who knows?
Well, I would say with Detroit, I look at them because I look at, they just got Cade, they got Killian Hayes, they got Jaden Ivey. Like, I feel like they are like muddled so much in that backcourt already. I don't know if LeBron James Jr. would make a good fit for that. San Antonio wouldn't be too bad, depending on if Pop is still there. I don't know. Maybe a backcourt of him, LaMelo, and then you got Brandon Miller. That's like a good core to have for like the next few years. And then JR comes through with this one. He says the Virginia Commonwealth Wizards.
Is crazy.
Look, they ain't got no point guard.
I'm gonna put it in my notes. I'm gonna put it in my notes because that's hilarious. The Virginia
Commonwealth Wizards. I mean, they did come out with the report saying that they're moving them out of DC to Virginia. So,
they are.
Yeah, I saw that come across a little while ago. So I would be curious to see how that is. But I mean,
how that happens, how that unfolds.
It can't be no worse than what they got. I can tell you that right now.
It can't be any worse, But that's it for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a wonderful, wonderful time. It's good to be back in terms of talking basketball and stuff with y'all. Hopefully y'all enjoyed listening to us all. And like I said, we'll be back next week unless otherwise noted. But if you guys haven't already, be sure to check out the Game Changers. They got a show coming on right after us. If you guys haven't already checked them out, there's going to be an interview with Miss Cindy Q. Like I said, talking about fantasy sports, football season, stuff like that. If you haven't a chance to check them out, it's a really, really great show, and I highly recommend it if you haven't already. Like I said, give them a shout out. And like I said, if you haven't already checked us out, hit us up on the Sports Affiliation, YouTube, Instagram as well. And like I said, you follow us, Deontay Adams, at Rico Modern World on Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. I'm not calling it X. You're not going to sit here like, oh, follow us on X.
hey, that's my line.
I'm just saying, it's like I refuse to call it X. So it's like it's Twitter for a reason. I'm not going to sit here and switch up now. So.
And speaking of Twitter, I have now crossed over the threshold of the 9,000 follower threshold. So the road to 10,000 really begins. So it's a huge accomplishment in my sports journey here with you guys. So like I said, I really enjoyed co-hosting these spaces with you guys, and you guys have just pretty much given me a platform where I can continue to grow, not only as a person but as a sports content creator. So I just want to thank you guys personally, and you guys are awesome. So
yes, sir. Man's on the road to 10K. We appreciate that. And like I said, if you guys have any questions about sports and basketball in general, like I said, we're here for you. Like I said, if y'all know anybody out there that wants to join up on the show, like I said, we'd love to have some guests on here at some point. I'm hoping to look and get some people on, sometime in the future, and it'll be a little bit more entertaining for us because we can talk back and forth, but I would love to sit here and get somebody else's opinion and stuff like that. I know we have our boys JR, SoCal, Iggy, they hop on every chance that they get, and obviously I love their opinions and stuff. It's always good to just get new opinions, new faces, stuff like that. But like I said, if y'all have any other ideas, any other people y'all want to have on, like I said, let us know. But in the meantime, we appreciate everybody that was here tonight, just watching this, after the fact. We'll catch y'all next week. Y'all got any other questions, y'all hit us up. But in the meantime, y'all have a good night, man. Like I said, I'm here watching the Lakers lose to Dallas, but we'll see how it plays out.
I'm watching the Celtics lose right now to the Cavaliers by only 5. So, we'll make that 8 now. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So,
It's all good. We'll catch y'all later, though. Peace out.
catch you later.